All right, so what I wanted to do before I work on creating other things and other videos is I wanted to go over the introduction, uh, the instructions for SketchUp to Schools, this little guide that I created. Right now, the version that you're seeing on your screen is the version that I created with Microsoft Word. Um, when I uploaded it to Google Docs, it some of these pictures that I have on the side here, like the picture of Katherine Johnson right here, and the picture of the toolbar on the second page, they all got distorted and deleted. So um, I wanted to show you what what this looked like, what the original document looked like, and I also wanted to kind of talk to you about why I created this. So as I was watching my first video that I needed to edit, I was thinking that it would be a really good thing to have a reference card or a reference sheet that you could go to that would help you explain SketchUp for Schools. This way, when I create videos in the future and you become more familiar with using this, I'll have to put less instruction and I'll be able to uh, get videos edited and put up online a lot faster than it took to do the first few videos that I've adjusted and created so far. So some couple things. I'm just going to go through the top and go down. To be able to get SketchUp, you have to be logged into Google Chrome, and then you're going to open a new tab, and then there's the grid. The apps grid will be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Um, so if we go to Google Chrome, you have a new tab open. This is the apps grid right here, the Google Apps grid. You're going to come into the scroll bar and scroll down to where it says SketchUp for Schools. This is the one right there. So you click on that and you'll open up SketchUp. And it may, if it's your first time on it, it may have a window that says Start Modeling. If not, it will have a window that looks like this. So it's going to open up for a sec. It might be slow because my data is running low, probably on my hotspot on my phone. But it'll have a screen that looks like this. You're going to hit Create New. Then you'll see a blank screen with a person standing here. I'll get to that person in a second, but let's go back to here. But so some general tips. When you start, the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to save it. And you save it by clicking on the button that says Untitled right here. Click on where it says Untitled. Then it'll open up into your Google Drive. You're going to click My Drive and then create a folder that says SketchUp Files. And this is where you'll save all of your SketchUp work here. This is where you'll pull it from when you go to submit it. I generally will have a title that you will put in your SketchUp. Would like you to have your name in the title as well. So if you're doing the block puzzle for 6th grade and 7th grade, you'll put block puzzle with your name included when you save it. Once you have it saved, then it's a simple matter of hitting the save button and it will save it. There are different colors that you'll see when you start to draw lines on here, lines and shapes. You'll see blue, that's the axis that goes up and down. You'll see red, that's the axis that goes side to side. And you'll see a line that's green that will be going forward and back. The basic copy functions and the quick keys with the control key works the same with this as it does in any other program that you use. Control C is copy, Control V is paste, Control Z is back. If you go back too far, you hit Control Y, it will go forward. If you look at the buttons on top, this is an undo button, that's a forward button or a redo button. It's the same thing as Control Z, Control Y. If you ever are trying to drop tools, like if you pick up a tool and you're trying to switch it to another one or it continues to draw, always try to hit escape first. And if that doesn't do it, hit Control Z and it should take any lines that you have away from there. When you're putting measurements in, if you don't put an apostrophe there, it'll automatically think that you're talking in feet in terms of the distance. So if you put an apostrophe, excuse me, if you don't put an apostrophe there, it'll think you're talking in inches, not feet. The apostrophe means feet. If you do quotation marks, that means inches. If you don't label it all, the default will automatically be inches. If you're using a mouse, which I have one somewhere here in my pile of blankets. So if you're using a mouse and the mouse happens to have a roller key, like or a roller wheel, like this one does right here, so the roller wheel will help you zoom in and out. If you click and hold the roller wheel, it will automatically put it into the orbit mode. So if I'm in here, if I click and hold this, it automatically changes to the orbit mode. If you're clicking and holding the orbit mode or clicking and holding the roller wheel and then right click at the same time, it will bring a window up that you can change the other different navigation tools that you have here as well. Hit escape to get out of it. If not, click on the arrow to click off. That's if you ever can get off, you hit escape or Control Z doesn't do it. Click on the arrow tool and then click anywhere off this on the screen off the tool that you're on, and it should take you back. Then if you need to delete lines, you can either select them and they'll turn blue and you can hit delete, or you can hit backspace and those will go away. The mouse pad, if you bring your fingers together like this, if you pull your fingers together like that, it should zoom out. So I'm going to pull my fingers together like this. I click on the screen first so it knows that it's there. So if I bring my fingers together like this on my screen pad or on the mouse pad, it'll zoom out. If I go in, if I spread my fingers apart, it will zoom in. You can delete objects by selecting them, so the objects will highlight and turn blue. And then you can just hit backspace or delete. And then all versions will have a person usually standing on there. The ones that we used last year, the version that we used last year for SketchUp for Schools, had a person named Temple Grandin. She's a person that did a lot of her own designing when she was redesigning the way slaughter plants are laid out. And so she was the person that they used as reference there. The person that's on here now is a person named Katherine Johnson. She was one of the first African American people to work for NASA as a space engineer or as an aerospace engineer. And she was one of the lead characters on the movie Hidden Figures. So now I'm going to take a bit of time to go over all of the stuff on the the tool the toolbar on the left side. The only thing we'll really use the toolbar on the right side for are materials, which you'll have a shortcut to when you click paint. You'll automatically bring the material bar up. But here we go. So the arrow line is your typical tool that you're going to use to select things. It also will be the best way to drop tools if you can't get rid of them by pushing escape or Control Z. Click the arrow tool, then click off the screen, then they'll go away. The second tool down is called the eraser tool. You'll use this to erase lines or portions of your part. I would not use this eraser often because all you have to do to erase objects is to click with your left click and hold and move the mouse across the object that you want to delete and it automatically will delete. You can delete things very, very fast if you use the eraser. So I would recommend not using the eraser. Use the method of grabbing the arrow tool, clicking the object, it will turn blue, and then hit backspace or delete. It does the same thing. The paint bucket is the next one down. When you click on the paint bucket, the material bar on the opposite side should light up, which it does right here. The first thing that will pop up is the colors on here. Um, if you click the menu button, it will bring it back to it'll bring you all of the options for materials over here. There's more options for colors if you click where it says colors on there. Let's see if I can't move this out of the way, see if it makes it better. But there's a ton of different options when it comes to preloaded materials for you on here. The other option for the bucket is sample material. So you could take a picture and put it into, I believe you could take a picture and insert it into SketchUp for Schools and take this and you could sample that and it automatically will change your paint to whatever color you went over top of. The next button down is, or the next tool down on the toolbar, it's the fourth one down from the top. That is the pencil one, or it's used to draw lines. The very first option on that is a pencil that will draw only straight lines. So it will typically lock into the X, Y, and Z grid that I think I had mentioned up here with the blue, green, and the red. It should lock into those as you're moving it around, but it typically will only draw straight lines. The second option on the pencil is the freehand, which if you pick it up and you hold down and hold your left click down, it will just be like taking a pencil and writing onto a screen like you had a pencil in your hand and you were writing on paper. Okay, we're moving down to the fourth tool on the toolbar on the left side. The fourth tool down on the left side is going to be the arc. There are four different options with this. Not really going to cover this that much when I'm going over my general guide. The eighth graders will use this a bit in the projects that they're going to create from project book 1 on their paper towel holder and the paper towel holder and the footstool, along with projects following that. But for the most part, sixth and seventh graders won't have to worry about the arcs as you are drawing. The fifth tool down from the top, we should be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the fifth tool down from the arrow, or the sixth tool from the top, is what I call the shapes bar, because there's more than just the two shapes that we do use. There are a total of 5 different options. The two shapes that we're going to focus on are the rectangle or square and the circle. The rectangle is probably the one we will use most often. The when you're drawing it, you're going to click the rectangle, then click on the screen. Then you're going to move your mouse. You're going to wait until you see the color that you want. Typically, most of the time, the color you're going to want to see is going to be blue. Then once you see the color you'd like, you can go right into typing, and you need to put 2 measurements to give the length and the width of your rectangle or square that you're doing. Most of the time, it does horizontal first, then your vertical. So when we're going through the videos, I typically will tell you, and I should have that pre-planned. So you just have to type in the 2 different measurements. The 2 different measurements have to be separated though between each other with a comma. So for instance, on the first assignment that we're going to do, we're going to make windows on 3 of the 4 sides that we create, and we need to put the width first. So we're going to put 48 comma space 36. If you were to do that, you would make a window that's 48 inches wide, comma space 36 inches tall. And when you do the door on the last wall of the building we're going to create, you do the width first, 36 comma space 82 inches tall. So you need to have, as I wrote in here, you need to have your number, comma, space, then your second number, then you're going to hit enter. The circle has to be prepped a little bit before we use the circle. It's going to be the third option when you're clicking the when you're going into the shapes for, did I close out SketchUp? Yes, I did accidentally. I gotta bring that back up. So when we're doing the circle, it's good to prepare. Pardon me, that was probably gross. So when we're doing the circle, you're gonna have it prepped so you know exactly where you're putting the circle. A lot of times that's just putting a simple line on there, and you're gonna draw a circle at the very end of your line. And we'll show you how to do that in a second. Create new. So you're gonna go to the fifth tool from the arrow or the sixth tool down from the top on the toolbar. And then the third option is gonna be circle. When you're drawing out a circle, you're drawing the radius. So if you know the diameter will be half of the radius. And I have a little chart at the very bottom that will help you with that when we get to there. So you put it on there, you start to go out, and then you just type in your number the way that is explained in the videos that we've gone through. And here's my math tip that I have at the very bottom of this page. When drawing circles, you're going to be using the radius. The radius is going to be half of the diameter. Remember when we're dividing fractions, half a fraction divided by 2, any fraction divided by 2, the top number will stay the same and then the bottom number will double. So if you had 3/4 as your starting measurement, the 3 stays the same, so the 3 transfers over, then the bottom number will double. 4 times 2 is 8. If we had 3/8, 3/8 divided by 2 would be 3/16. 3/16 divided by 2 would be 3/32. Um, that's that's just something to remember with that. Let's move forward to the next page. We're going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th tool from the top. It's called the push pull button. The push pull button, we're mainly going to be using it to make objects go from 2D to 3D, or we're going to use it to subtract or cut off material. The first thing you'll do when the first option that I just talked about, once you make your 2D object, you're going to click on push pull, then click on your 2D drawing. Once you click on it, the whole area will highlight, and you'll move your mouse in whatever direction you want to go. Then you can type in the distance that it needs to be extruded or pulled out, then hit enter. Then it should snap itself into place. It doesn't lock it in permanently because there's another thing we have to do before we can move things around and to make it permanent. We'll get to that, but that's how you extrude it. You click on the surface you want to do it, move your mouse, type in the number, hit enter. The next thing, the second option with push pull is to cut it off, condense it, or extend it even farther than what you originally had done. The Sorry, my skin's a little itchy from sitting in this chair all the time. So once you have your lines drawn out and marked out on the 8th grade projects, we'll be subtracting areas off of there. So you'll click on the area that you want to have subtracted. You can move it down to move it down in on itself, like you're going to collapse it on itself. And once you get to the bottom of the object that you're working on, if you click the bottom will automatically disappear. If you're having a hard time understanding the concepts that we're going through just with me explaining it without me showing, that's completely okay. I just wanted you to go through, I just wanted to go through all of this with you instead of having you just read it and try to understand it that way. I want to try to give a little explanation. The best way to learn SketchUp and to use all these tools is to just jump right in and play with it. Follow what I do when I'm making my videos. That's one of the things that I'm going to add to the quick instructions on top before we get to the toolbar is to use a split screen. Use a when split screen when watching demo videos. Use a split screen when you're watching demo video. So half of your screen will have the video on it. The other half will have another window open with your SketchUp tab, so you can go through there. Using the pause button on the videos and or playback speed. So we're using the pause button with the videos while you have your split screen, and then you can slow down the playback speed. If you go to the settings, you can make it go slower than what the regular playback speed is, to hopefully catch some of the things faster. You can always pause and go back. You can always repeat directions. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to create these demonstration and educational videos, so you could help understand that. Let's pause it for a sec. Let's go back to here and let's pause it. Okay, I think I have that after my addition that I just added in. I believe I have everything adjusted back to where I wanted it to be. So yeah, using that split screen will definitely help, and using your playback speed, that will help with keeping your keeping up with everything. You can always pause and go back, as I already had mentioned, but let's continue with these directions. The outer shell is the 8th tool down from the top. I really haven't used this tool very much at all, to be honest, so we'll pretty much skip over top of this. There are several different options with it. Don't worry about it. The next tool down, we're the 4th from the bottom, we're the 9th tool from the top, or 4th from the bottom. This is the move tool. We're going to be using this in two different ways. There's three options with it. We'll be using two different ways. This will be used quite a bit when it comes to the assembly process. In order to make the move tool happen without changing your part, you need to make your object a fixed figure or a solid object. We're going to make it a component. In order to do that, once you have an object created, we're going to highlight the whole thing. So let's quick make an object very fast. Let's go like this, and we'll make, nope, let's make a rectangle first, Keenan. So we're gonna go like this. We'll do 48, comma, space, 36, hit enter, then we're gonna hit escape. Then we're gonna do push pull, just like this, move it up. Let's do 5 feet, 5 apostrophe, just like that. In order to make this so it doesn't move or change its shape after we've created it into a 3D object, we're going to highlight the whole thing. Then we're going to right click over top of it as we're hovering over top of it. We're going to hit make component, and then we'll name it. I'll just name this block, just like that. That will be fine. Then we're going to hit OK. Now we can use the move tool. If the whole thing is highlighted and kind of outlined in sort of a blue frame, then it means that it's a solid object. If you see it highlighted, let me reverse that. So right now I took the component off. If it's not a component, when you highlight it, it will have a bunch of little tiny blue dots. So you want to make sure that you have it a solid component, and when it's a solid component, you'll see a blue outline on the edges of it. That's a way to see that it's a component. So once you have it made a component, you're going to use the arrow tool to move it around, and you're going to select a specific point on the part that you're moving, so that when you connect it to your next object, you'll have common points that are shared between one object or another, and you'll be able to use like the corner of my finger to the corner of this finger. You'll be able to connect them as you move the part across. Okay, I talked about making a component. I talked about moving it. We'll use that in the assembly process mainly. Sometimes the move tool will need to switch the move tool to what's called the rotation tool, and it's a way to manipulate objects or change the object shapes. I'll use my daughter's water bottle as an example. So if my daughter's water bottle is drawn where it's drawn where it's horizontal and I want to stand it up, we're going to use what's called the rotate tool to shift it so it stands up on itself. So typically what you'll do is you'll click on the object and the object will be highlighted blue like I showed you before. Then you'll click on the move tool, switch it to the second option in there, which is the rotation. Then you'll see a protractor come up and there'll be three different colors as the colors, actually four different colors actually. It will have blue, the color protractors might be blue. That's just rotating it flat like this. There'll be red, which would be flipping it up depending on what axis it's being pivoted off of. There'll be a green protractor, which would also stand it up. And then there's a black, sometimes you'll see a black protractor, which doesn't have a set origin that it's pivoting off of. So you want to try to stick to the red, blue, or green, whatever's specified in the video as I'm showing it. As soon as you click on it and you get the protractor you want, you're going to start to move it. Then you're going to type in 90 degrees. Then hit enter, and it will shift and rotate the way you want it to. I'll show you an example. So I'm going to click on the move tool, click on rotate. The object is already selected. If I hover over top of the axis facing the red, or the side facing the red axis, you'll see a green, which means it's going to pivot. It'll pivot on the y-axis. If I hover over top of the sides that are facing away from the red, the sides that will be facing the green, it's going to pivot off of the x-axis. So if I have it on the y-axis portion, it's going to pivot on the x-axis. If I have it on the x-axis, it'll pivot on the opposite. If I go to the corner, which I think you might be able to do, typically the color black, as I mentioned before, happens when you have round objects, when you don't have a flat side or a flat surface to go off of. The other one that I mentioned was blue, and that just shifts it flat. It doesn't tip it up or down. So here's what you do once you have the protractor you want. You're going to click on 2 points on the same edge, on that same plane, and then you're going to start rotating it, and you can type in, you see down at the angle down there at the bottom the bottom right hand corner, it will say the angle. That's where you can type your angle that you want. Majority of the time you'll be using 90 degrees when you're rotating things. So the blue just rotates it flat. I'm gonna hit escape, Control Z to shift it back. If I'm gonna do the red or the green, it will rotate this way. I'm gonna type 90, hit enter, and that's how you get the rotation tool to work. As we move down, the measuring tool isn't used often. If you're curious to see if you drew out a part correctly, like I did in the first video that I made with the 7th grade or the 8th grade project books, you can use the measuring tool. There are 7 different options with this one. The other option we may use at times is the labeling function of this, but we really won't use it that often. It's not very complicated to use. You click on the measurement, make sure you have your first defaulted one. You're going to click once on one location, move it down, and you click again, and then the length will appear on the bottom as you go there. You can use this to set lines. You can use this to set offsets. So let's say I wanted to make a parallel line with this edge. I can click twice, and I can use this to set offsets, just like that. I just clicked 4 different times. I clicked 1, 2, and then moved it down, clicked 3, 4, and I made an offset line that's parallel to the top edge of what I just did. Control Z. Well, we really won't need to use it that often, but this is more of a checking tool. You're going to use the measurement. You just click on it. You don't always have to go to the options that pop up. Whatever is defaulted or whatever is showing on the toolbar is the tool that's going to be selected if you just click the button just once. Moving down on to the next tool, it's the second from the bottom, is the walking tool. Really haven't used this one that much. As far as I understand it, it's very similar to the navigational viewing window or the viewing tools that we're going to see at the very bottom that we're going to go over. This is not one that I really cover that much, so we're going to kind of skip over the walking tool. But I think it's kind of similar to if you've been on Google Earth and you look at the street view, it's very similar to the street view of that. Now, the navigational viewing, there are 5 different options, and I need to go over all 5 options. The navigational viewing tools of the toolbar are probably the most used portion that we will use on this toolbar because this is used with everything. Whenever you're drawing something out, if you're not quite able to see a very specific point of a part, or if you're going to if you're in the assembly stage and you need to see where the 2 parts meet, you're going to need to manipulate the screen. Sometimes when you're drawing, you might not have enough window for the space that you're drawing out at, and so you might need to switch and go into the viewing or the navigational view tool. This can be accessed by clicking on the bottom and then clicking on the bottom tool and then changing it as you need. Or, as I mentioned in the shortcuts, if you read it in the shortcuts, the rolling wheel, if you click and hold the rolling wheel, it automatically, no matter what tool I'm in, let's say I'm in the drawing tool, you can automatically click the rolling wheel if you have a mouse, and it will automatically jump into the navigational wheel straight to default first. Or it might be whatever the last one you used. As far as I know, the default will always, whenever you click and hold the rolling button. I'm pushing down right now on my rolling button like this with my pointer finger. It, as far as I know, it will always go into the orbit tool. This is what pivots the screen, kind of keeps your part in the central view of it. If you're holding this down and then use your right click, you're going to use one finger and then use your right click to click at the same time. A menu will come up and you can change the navigational window tool that you're going to be using. But we're going to put escape. I'm going to hit Control Z to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to this page. So the orbit tool is the first one. Once you click on it, if you're using your mouse without a roller or if you're using the keypad, you need to click with one finger if you're using the mouse pad, and then your other finger is going to, you can either use your second hand or another mouse or another finger on the same hand, and you'll hold it down while you're moving it across the mouse pad to get the orbit tool to move around. For instance, like this. I'm going to click and hold. I'm going to click on the orbit tool. Then I'm going to click. I'm going to hold it down with my left hand. With my right hand, I'm going to use my right hand to skim across the mouse pad to move it around. Okay. The next tool down in this option at the very bottom is called the pan tool. The pan tool doesn't orbit it. It's not going to rotate. It's just going to take your window and it's going to shift it over. So let's say that we are zoomed in and we have a long, for instance, last year when we did the ruler, we used the pan tool quite a bit because we were zoomed in and we wanted to stay at that level of zoom, but just shift it over like this. So when you use the pan tool, it's going to be the same way. If you're in this, if you're using the mouse pad and you have it selected, you're going to click and hold and then move across the mouse and it will slide the picture over without rotating it. The next one is the zoom tool. This is just a general zoom tool. When you click and hold and you move your other finger up across the mouse pad, it should zoom in. When you click and hold and pull back down or towards yourself, it should zoom out, just like that. The fourth tool in the navigational tool window is the zoom window. Let's say that you're zoomed really far out and you want to get in close. Like, let's say we wanted to look at her glasses. You can click and hold and then move your finger across, and whatever that window is highlighted right there on the screen and you let it go, it automatically zooms into that small location. This is one thing that one of the reasons on the sixth and seventh graders, when you guys are working on the block puzzle project, one of the reasons why we want to delete this person is to be able to find an object that's really small, that's about the size of her buttons on her shirt. When you have something really big, it's going to be best to get rid of this person. So the zoom window, we're going to go like this, and that would zoom it in to that area. So if we had our 3/4 inch blocks drawn, our little tiny 3/4 inch blocks, if they're drawn up and we were far away from them, we could take our zoom window and highlight over top of them, and wherever that box is created, whoops, I'm gonna hit escape. I'm still in the drawing tool. You can click off of that, just like this. Notice my voice is getting hoarse because I'm trying to talk through the videos, and it's going to continue to get that way. So I'm going to have to get some cough drops in a little bit. But when you have your zoom, you're going to click and hold, and whatever that little box is around, it will zoom into that location. The very last one is probably the most important when it comes to this one if you're ever getting lost. So when you're doing the sixth grade and seventh grade classes, they're going to make these blocked cubes. They're going to make actual models of these in SketchUp for schools. They're going to make each part. They're going to take it out. They're going to take their puzzle pieces apart and make each individual puzzle piece like this. They'll take and make these. They'll make these. Before we create these, we're going to be creating the 27 cubes, the 27 wood cubes that we are going to use to create these parts. You're going to create these first, and they're going to be quite small, comparatively speaking, to the person that we're using. And so I want to show you this example right now. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to get rid of the objects that I have here. I'm going to highlight that and then hit backspace. I'm going to click on Katherine Johnson and then delete the person from there. So we don't have a big scaled model. We can go and draw objects small. So our cube is 3 divided by 4, comma, space, 3 divided by 4. That's 0.75 inches, or 3/4 of an inch, comma, space, 3/4 of an inch, then hit enter. Do you see how small it is now? See how small that object is? So that's like looking at this, that's like looking at this cube from this far away. See how far away my hand is right now? That's like looking at that cube that far away. So when you do this one, the fastest way to get in to see where we are is to go down to the last one. It's called Zoom Extents. You click on it and it immediately zooms in and brings everything that you have drawn into the center of your frame. No matter what you're drawing, if you ever get lost, always click Zoom Extents and it will bring everything up to a home view like this. So now I'm going to make this 3/4 of an inch. 3 divided by 4, enter. Then I need to hit Zoom Extents again to bring it into the central view. In order to rotate it, I want to rotate this up a little bit. I'm going to click to the orbit and rotate up. Then I'm going to bring my fingers together to zoom out a little bit. Now I'm looking at that block cube really pretty close, but far enough out where I can see it. So you're kind of looking at the cube kind of like this close to the camera. Pretty close. I'm trying to figure out where this is. This goes right here. Once you have it, again, in order to move this around, we need to lock it in place. So we're going to switch to the arrow tool, highlight the whole thing, When everything highlights blue, if it's not a component yet, you'll see a shaded, kind of looks shaded or it's got dots on it. We're gonna put our mouse over top of it, hit right click, and then we're going to, well, I can't see it because this is in the way. You need to move this out of the way. Oh, you can't see it yet. I need to move whenever you're doing this is a good example of something that you might come across. So whenever you have that, if I highlight the whole thing and right click it, and I can't see all of my menu, the only thing I have to do in order to see that is to um, click on the object in a different location so that full menu will be able to pop up. Make component. We're going to do 3 divided by 4 cube and enter. Now I should be able to move it around and it should have caught everything. Let's make sure it did. I want to get the move tool, not to orbit, or not to rotate. Yep, I got everything there. So I'm going to zoom out. That pretty much concludes all of the things about SketchUp that I wanted to incorporate in the explanation of this, along with the SketchUp guide. What I will probably do is make this one video all together that explains everything about SketchUp and the toolbars. Then I will likely make 2 other separate videos that will pull out or extract just the toolbar section that covers all of this, and even another video to make it more specific about the navigational view, because the navigational view is probably one of the most important things of this guide that you'll need to understand. Once you understand that, it will make this process of using SketchUp a lot easier to use. I hope this was helpful and informative, and I'll continue to try to make adjustments and videos that will be beneficial to you as we create objects while I'm out resting. We'll see you next time.